It's so huge out there in the wasteland. In the main room, you can't even see the roof.
Newly emerged stable dweller. I need to be serious for a moment. There was a point in the war when nothing we did worked, and every single day our soldiers lost more and more ground. Deaths on the battlefield were being matched by the suicides of ponies affected by wartime stress disorder. Every pony was losing hope, and when the knowledge that the zebra had successfully tested a mega spell that was leaked from the Ministry of Arcane Science, there was panic. It was at this point that StableTech revealed their fallback plan. Over 100 underground shelters spread across the land. These shelters were known as stables and were the crown jewel of StableTech. They were designed to withstand the mega spell detonation, and if you believe the billboards, they could keep feeding and caring for ponies inside for hundreds of years. Now, seeing as how I was never in a stable myself, I have no first-hand experience on what they were like before the bombs fell. But since then, numerous stables have opened, repopulating the wasteland and giving daring explorers an opportunity to discover the secrets within. But I love it when there's a but. Hang on. That's not what I meant. Oh dear, I'm going off topic. Every so often, I meet a Wastelander who isn't afraid to get his or her hooves dirty. Sweaty, bloody, messy, oily, gory intestines, or any other kind of messy substance. And when I meet these wonderful ponies, I ask them to gather information that I can use to help others. In this case, I was able to obtain information from a Wastelander that had explored several stables in return for a hug and a rather big tray of muffins. Several weeks later, he returned with a fresh set of injuries and lots of stories for the guide. I think it's more important that I go into the dangers of stables. And to do so, I'm going to introduce you to Wastelander Buck. Now, one day, Wastelander Buck is strolling about his home, the desolate wasteland, and he discovers the door of an open stable. Now, Wastelander Buck is rather low on food and ammo, and that large chunk in his side is being quite bothersome. So, the open door seems like a hearth-warming gift, and he dives headfirst into it. Unfortunately for him, Wastelander Buck did not carefully read this section of the Wasteland Survival Guide and is quickly torn apart by mean creatures that now inhabit the stable. Don't be like Wastelander Buck and read this section carefully. The stables are host to many different monsters and dangers. You need to be cautious if you venture into a stable. My Wastelander friend, the one who survived the stables, has made careful note of the stables that he visited and the dangers within, and of course how to kill the creepy crawlies. Here's something interesting about the stables. Did you know that not all of them are the same? Whilst the stables seem to have offered the same levels of protection, the inside seems to be quite different. Out here in the wasteland, we have all sorts of monsters, and in order to avoid those monsters, we built towns. And the mayor or a sheriff runs these towns. Politics are everywhere these days. Even the stables have them. In fact, stable politics seem far simpler than ours. An overmayor who exercises complete control over the ponies of the stables leads them. And those ponies have their own jobs to do, which is chosen based on their respective cutie marks. Seems quite simple. Once they earn their marks, they go to work and are given pip bucks. Rather interesting little tools that give them lots of useful information. Now, my little ponies, these stables were not designed to remain shut forever. In fact, barely 100 years or so after the war, the first stable dwellers emerged. And, of course, your friend Miss Doo was there to meet them. Then the strangest thing happened. They started shooting at me. The nerve of some ponies. Yes, I'm afraid it took some time to gain the trust of the stable dwellers, but the problem was, every time I tried to have a conversation with them, they would run, or shoot then run. Eventually, they just ended up shutting their doors all over again. And that was it. No more ponies in the wasteland, except for one young filly that wandered out without her mother's permission. Thank the goddess I found her though, and not some scary creature. I got her back to her stable safely and gave her my biggest, squishiest hug,
And just as I was about to leave, the stable doors open and their overmare rushes out and hugs the child. It was the overmare's own daughter. The stable dwellers still never really trusted me, but after that, they at least stopped shooting, and they had conversations with me. Except one time my eye fell out of its socket into a cup of tea that belonged to the... well, maybe that's a story for another time. So, once the stable dwellers started listening to me, I was able to show them the best places to set up a town and live in. They could be safe and free to breathe the air, and I could live there too, so long as I kept to myself mostly. And while they were putting the town together, I decided that one day, other stable dwellers might come into the wasteland. But if they didn't know the things that I know, the things that we have to do to survive here, well, this book was my solution. So, before we leave, I should give you one last word of warning about these stables. That is my job, after all. I know that the possibility of scavenging in a stable for food, ammo, and medical supplies seems like your best option, but believe me, it's not. Many of the stables were cleared out when the inhabitants left, and the ones that still have anything worth taking are guarded by dangerous and varied array of creatures. I cannot warn you properly about what may be lurking within those stables, and if you must go, take a large group and remember the advice on dealing with the possible creatures you may meet.